So one thing's for sure, right? Without the expectation that you will succeed, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whether it's personal growth or external impact, without the expectation that you will succeed, it's really unlikely that you will. You know, sometimes we get surprised and we think, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, and despite ourselves, we actually do. But it's far more common that when we have a deep down belief that what I am doing is meaningful, that I can do this, that even the challenges and barriers that crop up in front of us, even they become, well, not such a big issue. Because after all, what we're doing is meaningful and impactful. And our expectations, good or bad, positive or negative, supportive or not, are often more than just about anything else determinative of our reality, or at least our experience of reality, and we explored that a little bit in the last couple of services. A Forbes magazine article written in August 2016, titled 8 Unrealistic Expectations That Will Ruin You. The author begins by explaining the phenomenon that we are going to be exploring this morning, and that is how our reasonably attainable expectations of each other help us realize our true potential. The author, Travis Bradbury, points out that as far back as the 1960s, Harvard research demonstrated the power of our beliefs in swaying other people's behavior and in influencing our own. In an experiment, teachers in the studies were told that certain randomly selected students, get this, randomly selected, someone who doesn't know the students walked in and told the teacher that this one, this one, this one, and that one were pretty high achievers and that they were very likely to succeed in the instruction that the teacher was giving. And sure enough, those kids performed better, not only in the classroom, but also later when they were given standardized IQ tests. So randomly selected students did better because they were identified as successful or achievers or capable of taking in the lessons that the teacher was giving. Now, there were a number of observations that came out of these series of research experiments. One of them is that the teacher will treat a student better when they think the student is likely to succeed, and will treat that student differently than the teacher treats someone who is expected not to get it. Behavior is actually different. The teacher gives the student more opportunities to succeed when the teacher thinks the student is successful than when dealing with students they think are unsuccessful. Now again, this is a study in the 1960s, and I just want to say that the thinking of how one should teach students at different levels with different abilities has come a long way. But I think the generalization that our behavior toward other people is often determined about what we believe about those people. And that what we're doing today in teaching is often finding ways around that, is learning to realize our own subconscious inclinations and finding different entry points for someone to excel or to realize their own abilities. That's why we worry so much when things like athletics or art or music programs are curtailed, because often those are ways that students who otherwise are not necessarily being treated as successful find their own inner expression is appreciated. Their own capabilities in a particular area give them a sense of self-esteem. And so overall, they perform better. They also found that students who are presented as being academically inclined are often given more accurate and more detailed feedback than those who are not. Which is why since the 1960s we've had a whole bunch of workshops and studies on how to do a good job of reflecting back to students their abilities, what they need to learn more, what they're doing well, keeping it balanced. Because back then, before we were really focusing on that, it turned out that we just naturally helped the person we thought was definitely going to end up achieving and succeeding with the educational goals, and in some ways, I guess, disregarding or giving short shrift to those we didn't think were really up to the task. So what's good for children, that is having more entry points for developing self-esteem and self-worth and understanding that there are more than one ways to learn lessons, is also good for adults. We both respond to the expectation that someone else holds for us and the expectations that we hold for ourselves. The key, it seems, is not to aim too high or too low, but rather to find, as I guess Goldilocks and the Three Bears did, find the right bed, the right porridge, the right approach to learning, the right approach to supporting each other that fits the person. Not using sort of standardized paradigms and fit them on everybody, but rather to meet people where they are, to find out, what are you all about? Who are you? What do you love to do? How is it that you feel connected to the divine, to yourself? What makes that little bit of joy light up in you? Of course, this all works best when we meet people where they are in appreciation and acknowledgments, and we watch them. And I think we've had some people here that I've heard stories have opened up as a part of this community, that have come here shy or introverted or hesitant to extend themselves out to the community, who, because one by one we've met them, we've gotten to know them, we've encouraged them, have opened and blossomed. And that's what we want our covenantal community to do for each of us. The expectation here should be that we will be met as we are and appreciated as we are and encouraged to bloom and blossom, because those around us will know just the right fertilizer to give us, right? Just the right note of encouragement, just the right opportunity. I'd like for us to take a moment and look at our covenant. You'll find it either on a little card tucked in with the hymns or on the inside of the Order of Service jacket. I invite you to say with me the covenant starting in the second paragraph with we. We, the members of the UU congregation of the Hudson Valley, affirm and covenant to listen actively and respectfully, be accepting of all voices, seek full and equitable participation, use language of kindness, assume positive intent, approach conflict directly and work toward a mutually acceptable resolution through honest interaction and compromise, express gratitude for the efforts of others, honor each other's personal journeys. To create an atmosphere of trust and safety, we agree to call each other back into covenant when necessary, and to forgive ourselves and others. These are fairly high but attainable standards for our conduct with each other. You don't find a covenant like this typically in your workplace. And lots of social organizations or athletic groups or hiking groups or other types of associations that we have with groups of people often don't have a covenant, right? They sort of depend on the sort of standard societal, some people have standards, others don't, sort of way of being together, right? We generally expect people to be honest. We generally expect people to do what they say, that sort of thing. But haven't really thought about what makes for really deep and reliable connection amongst people. And the covenant is our set of expectations, right? These are expectations. We expect that when we come into this group, we will meet people who will also engage with us according to the covenant. And this covenant gives us the right, the permission to act out of sync with what's out there. When we come here, in actuality come here, or when we are together as a group somewhere else, we have a right to expect that the people with us will live according to these principles. Out there, we are required to debate and argue and persuade those in power to honor our basic human rights. And it seems that no one is listening before we finish speaking. They're already thinking about what their response is, and their response is to justify how things are now. In here, we listen actively and respectfully. Out there, it's difficult to get a word in edgewise when those in power are imposing their will on us. Out there, many voices are marginalized: the young, women, people of color. In here, we are accepting of all voices. Out there, only the rich and powerful make the decisions that affect all of us. And they don't respect the ideals of democracy, using all manner of deception to deny participation to those they find undesirable. In here, we seek full and equitable participation. Out there, cyberbullies prey on those weaker than they, and politicians vilify those with whom they disagree. In here, we use language of kindness. Out there, those in power assume that the structures of economic and social justice which support them are fair for everyone, and that anyone burdened by crushing debt or caught up in the criminal courts is immoral, unfit, and the cause of their own misery. In here, we assume positive intent. Out there, workplace and social politics too often includes the spreading of unfounded and deceitful rumors, often involving situations and persons unknown to the rumor mongers. In here, we approach conflict directly and work toward a mutually acceptable resolution through honest interaction and compromise. Out there, our efforts go unnoticed, and to do a difficult or unpleasant thing Well, is to be asked to do it over and over and over again without recognition or gratitude. And here, we express gratitude for the efforts of others. Out there, we are primarily honored for our productivity, for our output of products or our generation of profit. Who we are, how we got there, and where we hope to go is subsumed in the relentless press of more and more and more. And here, we honor each other's personal journeys. And by all these things, we create an atmosphere of trust and safety where we can call each other back into covenant when necessary and to forgive ourselves and others in a meaningful way. And what I mean by that is we don't acquiesce to the bullies and abusers' demand to be forgiven without repentance. Instead, we work toward a process of forgiveness that brings out the best in each of us. In this season of repentance for the Jewish people, we see a process that requires the wrongdoer to state the wrong, acknowledge the consequences of that wrong, and offer to rectify the wrong before the one who is wronged is expected to forgive. And the reason for that is that the process assumes the desire for a continued relationship. And only with that kind of honesty and that kind of humility on the part of the wrongdoer can the person who is wronged feel safe and feel able to say, I understand you know what you did and that it hurt me, and because you understand and you want to continue the relationship, I forgive you. That's meaningful forgiveness. We are a kind and patient people, and we desire continued relationship. And when we support each other's search for an expression of our true self, our true nature, we may find, like the little engine that could, that we are indeed capable of so much more personal integrity, kindness, and compassion, and vision than we ever thought we had within us. For as we were reminded by Marianne Williamson's poem in the opening words, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. May it be so.